What it be, what it do, it is I, your Lord Octopussy, and I just saw the matchmaking test results. I've just had a quick read through them, and I thought, I'm gonna give my thoughts and opinions on all this. So, I'm not gonna go through what all of these tests were, like, I'm not gonna go through every single one and read everything out in detail. I'm gonna go through the basics. So you got range, which is when you search for a match, you try to find players that are close to your rating, which is here, and you find able to do so, it expands until you actually find someone that pairs with you, and it's the same here, like B, like two people, maximum range. It's quite easy to understand, and then expansion time is how long it takes to reach that maximum range. Again, it's quite simple. The longer you wait, the more the range of skill rating will let you be paired up with. I hate my speech impediment. And then they have bi-directional matchmaking. And this is the one I was confused with, so I'm going to read it here quickly. Normally, once a player has been waiting for long enough, other players can be pulled into the match as long as they're within the maximum range. Bi-directional matchmaking requires both players to have experience enough to encompass each other for them to be pulled into the same match. So, this is an example of bi-directional matchmaking. So, you see, this is the range here of player B and player A. Player A encompasses player B, but player B does not encompass player A, so they can't match. Whereas on here, player B does encompass player A, and player A also encompasses B, so they can match. Which is a really interesting idea. So just go a few more. They've also done grade visibility, and they've done grade-based matchmaking right at the end. Everyone, I think, already was aware that there was grade-based matchmaking. And then there's grade visibility, and we obviously know that there was a point where the grades were just invisible. And I'm glad that they've actually, I would like to say, like, I'm glad that they've actually posted this for us to see so soon. And let's go through it, because I haven't read all of I've read all of these, like, these tests, and all they've done is just, like, mess around with some variables, like they've messed around with the expansion time, they messed around with the maximum range, they've enabled bi-directional, and then they've done like a mix of them, like every now and then, like messing around with all of these. There was one where like there was like a 15-minute wait time, and I can't remember what one that was. Here it is on March 30th, uh, which they actually cut this test early because like queue times were apparently 15 minutes long for survivors. So they cut it short, and was obviously a failure of a test. And then grade-based matchmaking. And so here's where we go to like learnings and next steps, right? Because these are the parts that I want to focus on. I want to read through them and give my thoughts. So we've learned that strictness of matchmaking and quality matches without doubt linked. Lucid conditions have a noticeable effect on kill rates, opponent variety, and also the feedback we received. Although large variety of opponents was appreciated by some, there was the opposite reaction from others who are struggling in tougher matches. Um, Simply put, on the other side of any casual match where one player can win without trying is the person having a bad time despite trying their best. This is true. But on the other hand, on the other hand, the inverse is true. You get closer matches, but also they're too competitive to enjoy. So, and this is the part that I read and thought, I'm gonna record all this. I'm gonna record my shit. I'm gonna record my brain working. Because the higher end of skill groups ended up in tougher matches filled with meta perks and killers. This to me should say that they need to work on addressing the meta rather than the matchmaking as well. I mean, addressing the matchmaking is one thing, but addressing the meta is also something that they should really, really be focusing on. Because really, there's really only two, maybe three killers that are considered meta, and there's like only 8 perks on each side that is considered somewhat meta, and I don't think that's a really good, especially in a game where there's such a huge variety. There's like 100 or so perks. There's like, how many perks are there for each side now? There's like 90 something perks for killers, and there's like 100 something perks for survivors, I'm pretty sure. And, there's 27 killers in the game. There should not be such a slim margin for the meta. And I think they need to address the meta in terms of, maybe making some things base kit and changing perks, changing some killers, and trying to bridge the gap between all of them. I mean, obviously you're not. There's always going to be some killers that are just weaker than others. It's inevitable. And there's always going to be some perks that are pretty strong because they're an all-round perk. They're like kind of a constant thing perk, whereas there's some perks that are just niche. But I do generally think that needs to be looked at as well. Because the meta being so small is why there's such a low variety in higher level. So there's two distinct groups: high skill players that want more variety, which is why I say address the meta, and then lower mid skill players who don't want to get destroyed by high skill players. And that's a matchmaking issue. One's a matchmaking issue, one's a meta balance issue. The biggest takeaway here is that going too far in either way is never a one-size-fits-all solution, correct? What we often notice is how some players love the particular test because they'll see more variety in their opponents, but at the same time, those same tests were also frustrating a lot of people who will suddenly get a match with people way better than them. Neither person is wrong in this scenario. Each of them just wants something, expect something different from the matchmaking. Lastly, we have discovered that hiding grades in post-game match seem to definitely increases the feedback we receive. We suspect. Honestly, I would not mind them hiding grades, honestly. Because, like, grades they're not used for matchmaking. There's no reason why the other team, like, the other player should know about it. Because it's not used for matchmaking. It's, like, not used for anything. Next step. So here's the part I didn't read. Here's the part that I wanted to read with you all together. With all these learnings in mind, we have a solution that will improve matchmaking for both groups and players. We're making the following changes shortly. Reducing the maximum range. So obviously the maximum range was, how far you're allowed to go before you could be paired with someone. Reducing the expansion time proportionally, so it's no faster or slower than before. That's okay. So it's still about 5 minutes, I believe. It'll still be 5 minutes before you reach the maximum expansion or maximum range, but the maximum range itself has been reduced. I don't know what they'll be reducing it to. Whether they'll be reducing it to the 200 they started off with, 250, or whether they'll be reducing it to 350. Reducing the... Oh, no, we said that. Lowering the effective skill cap for ratings. Lowering the effective cap for skill kings. I don't know what that actually means. My brain just be... Removing grades for the post-match screen for the... See, this is fine. Like, I think this is a good change, honestly. Yep, we already noticed that. In order to make both groups happy, we need to isolate them from each other. To do this, we reduce the maximum expansion range. This will help keep players of similar skill levels together, reducing the number of one-sided matches. The majority of players are in the middle of the spectrum, so it'll be many people. Additionally, since it seems like the expansion is happening at a good rate, it'll be... Okay, so expansion time will be the same. Next, we'll consider how this will affect the high skill group. Reducing the range would mean less variety. Fortunately, we have another variable tweak that solves this issue perfectly. For the purposes of matchmaking, we have a cap for skill ratings. Although your rating can continue to climb beyond this cap, you'll be treated as if you're at the cap for the purposes of matchmaking. This is in place to prevent the best players out there from climbing to a point where there's simply nobody to match with. By lowering this cap, we're able to expand the pool in high skill matches leading to variety of opponents you face. One match may be very close and competitive, but the next match may be a little more made back. See, this is a good idea, honestly. This is what kind of DVD was for, like, the big sort of high, like the well-played, high-skilled content creators, like, like ArtStarver and True Talent go up against, If this works like the way they're saying it's going to work, or like the outcome is what they say it's going to be, then I think this will be good for them, like for content creators. I'll say we're removing grade. Yeah, see, this is fine. This is fine, honestly. It has nothing to do with matchmaking. It's literally nobody else's business other than yours. I'm not even entirely sure what grades are for in the first place. like, I'm not entirely sure why we still even have grades. Like, I know we use it for a blood point award at the end of every month, or the 13th of every month. I suppose that's not really the end. I'm not entirely sure why we even have grades anymore. For the future, we'll be implementing various improvements to the matchmaking system. These include making survivor ratings team-based. See, now this is what I was thinking of, right? This is exactly what I was thinking of. I'm glad I never addressed this in my my health update video, because if Patrick, I don't know if you're ever going to watch this. The one flaw that was with the hockey comparison, right? And I know everyone's kind of dunked on it, everyone's memed on it. Everyone said, aha, hockey, yeah. But talking, you know, as grown adults here, I think that the hockey comparison falls flat mainly because score based on hockey, right, is all calculated amongst the team. Each player's value is determined by, you know, you were talking about how the skilled plays lead to wins and that, but the problem with that is each player's value is actually calculated by, like, shots on goal, possession of puck, and all of that sort of thing. But the team's value itself is based on how many goals they score, and it's always the team that wins, not the player that wins. That was the main problem I think I had with the hockey argument. So I'm glad that it doesn't matter so much for Killer, but it definitely matters much more for Survivor. But I still think for Killer, like skill-based matchmaking, it needs to work more on. They need to do a bit more with the Killer one, but I'm glad that they're at least addressing it for the Survivor matchmaking here. Because yeah, so dying heroically to save everyone else isn't as punishing. And improvements to backfilling lobbies to prevent players from outside the acceptable range to fill in. These improvements will take longer to implement, but rest assured work is already underway on them. In our January developer update, you can find a full list of changes we're looking into in our January developer update. Like, yep, I'm sorry I didn't actually participate in this here. Yeah, okay, so we've really seen all this disconnection handling. But I'm glad they're actually really, like, I'm glad that they're not just sitting there thinking skill-based matchmaking is working perfectly. I know that's kind of how they came off in that developer update that everyone dunked on and memed on, but I'm glad that's not actually the case. So yeah, overall, this actually is a interesting and a hopeful developer update, in my opinion. So yeah, let me know what you think, and I'll hopefully see you again soon. And have a wonderful day.